Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, and good morning everyone. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi rasulillahi ajmain, amma ba'du. The Honorable Dr. Ani Susanti MPDBI as the Head of English Education Department, the Honorable Dr. Elizabeth England, today's guest lecturer, the Honorable Rifki Dora Wijayanti M. Hum as the moderator of today's webinar, the Honorable all of the lecturer of English Education Department, and the respectable all of the participants and committees. First of all, let's say thanks to our God Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the Lord of the universe, who has been giving us His blessings and mercy so that we can gather in this webinar. Second of all, may peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us into the right ways of life. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aisyah Haril Surya. As Master of Ceremony, I would like to say welcome to the International Webinar Series of English Education Department with the theme, How Teachers Manage in Changing Times. Before starting our agenda, let me explain the agenda schedule of this webinar. First opening, second main agenda, third Q&A session, and the last is closing. The first agenda is opening. Let's open our event today by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The next agenda is the main agenda, which we are waiting for explanation from our guest lecturer, Dr. England. Before that, let me introduce Mrs. Kiki as our moderator for today's webinar. Mrs. Kiki is alumni of Ahmad Dahlan University English Education Study Program. Mrs. Kiki is one of the lecturers in the English Education Department since 2011 onwards. For Mrs. Kiki, time is yours. Hello, Miss Kiki.
Hello, good morning, Aisha. Thank you very much.
Hello,
How are you?
Miss. Okay. Let's start, Miss.
Okay, so now it's my turn, right?
Yes.
First, and the moderator, the MC, would you please pull up the Dr. England's CV, please? Yes, thank you very much. Dr. England is an adjunct professor of Lord Fairfax Community College in Middletown, Virginia, United States, and currently is a principal of Liz England and Associates in Winchester, Virginia, United States. She's an international education consultant of TESOL and ESL, including founder of TESOL International Association Career Path Development Professional Learning Network. Dr. England pursued her undergraduate of Bachelor of Science, General Studies Education in University of Rochester, New York, United States, and graduated in 1974. Then completed her master's degree in elementary education, Nazareth College, Rochester, United States, graduated in 1975. Further, she obtained her PhD in education from University of Illinois Champaign, Urbana, Illinois, United States in 1984. And then throughout her academic career, which has led Dr. England to US and 5 other continents, she contributed a lot to projects focusing on educational program design, implementation, and assessment for universities, ministries, and commercial and public agencies. So today, Dr. England have visited more than 30 countries on short and long-term assignments in the form of projects and consultancies. Well, I will mention some of them, like 30 countries is so huge. The short-term projects and consultancies that she had handled was in Afghanistan, Botswana, Chile, Costa Rica, Czech Republic, Dominican Republic, Germany, Guatemala, Hong Kong, India, Israel, Japan, Kuwait, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Macau, Malaysia, Mexico, Nepal, Oman, Pakistan, Palestine, Russia, Senegal, Sri Lanka, Syria, Taiwan, Thailand, Tunisia, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Venezuela, and also Vietnam. And the long-term project she had done was in Egypt, Hong Kong, and Indonesia. Moreover, the result of Dr. England's long career journey here, especially in education area, are outlined in her outstanding publication as follows. The reliability analysis of professed differences in attitude questionnaire by TESOL Quarterly in 1983, and the use of basic writing materials in ESL writing classes in 1984, the role of motivation and language use in learning English as a second language in adult learners from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and also US educated English teachers overseas in 1988, a survey of foreign students in MA TESOL programs in 1989, plan specific purposes teacher preparation for 21st century in selected papers from the 15th International Symposium on English Teaching in 2006. And there are 4 more books that she also published. The first one is Online Language Teacher Education, TESOL Perspective, published by Routledge in 2012. Handbook for Arabic Language Teaching Professional in the 21st Century by Routledge. And also this is her collaborative work with Wahba and also Toha in 2014. And the next book is Communities of Practice in TESOL Encyclopedia of English Language Teaching, published by Wiley and Blackwell Publisher. The next one is TESOL Career Path, Creating Professional Success, published by Routledge in 2019. And then her upcoming publication would be co-edited by between Dr. England's and also Dr. Kami Stein and also Dr. Kompras on English Language Teacher Education in Changing Times. And it's going to be published on 2023. And I hope we are all here very lucky and fortunate since Dr. England would like to share about this topic, her upcoming book, her upcoming publication, and I personally believe that Dr. England would inspire us a lot more regarding to this issue. So I'd like to give a quick brief to all participants today that this event would be divided into few segments, especially in her presentation. The first one is the presentation in 90 minutes. The question and answer is in 45 minutes and closing would be in 15 minutes. So the questions are welcome into 2 forms, written forms in the chat box, and later probably to Dr. England. So please prepare your infinity cup of coffee close to you and open your camera to stay focused on this session. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Dr. England to share her presentation entitled How Teachers Manage in Challenging Times. Time is yours, Dr. England.
Wow.
It's clear.
Fantastic. Good. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming to this event today. I am honored and humbled to be here, to be with you all the way from Virginia. I live in the eastern part of the United States, where we have beautiful, beautiful autumnal weather, and I miss Indonesia so much. This is a chance for me to reconnect with my roots there. I was living in 2012 and 2013 in Makassar in South Sulawesi, and I'll tell you more about that in my presentation. But this is my first trip to Yogyakarta in Java for a virtual trip, and I am honored to be here. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. Ani, to Kiki for helping me. We've had a couple of meetings to plan this session, and we sincerely hope, together, all of us hope, that this program will provide all participants. I see we have about 70 or something like 73 now. All participants can go away after this presentation with at least one new idea, at least one. And I will be guiding you as we talk, and maybe you'll have even more than one. Let's see what happens. I also want to make a special introduction and acknowledgement of the presence today of our colleagues in Yogyakarta, the students in the program at the university, perhaps other faculty members, staff members. We also have colleagues from other parts of the world. And I wanted to do a shout out, especially to those who've come online like me late at night around the world. And thank you for coming and for making this session what I hope will be a rich one for all participants. Finally, I need to acknowledge and thank very much my beloved colleague and friend, Dr. Pak Willie Renyanda, who is in Singapore. Pak Willie was the person who introduced me to these lovely ladies, Dr. Ani and Kiki here. So thank you to Dr. Pak Willie for his help too. So I'm assuming everybody can hear me and see me okay, and I invite you to use the chat box. And I'm going to be talking about using the chat box because, you know, in these days of changing times, we have learned to use Zoom. One of the biggest learnings for me, one of the biggest changes for me in my life has been the use of Zoom and Skype and a few other tools like it. And I hope all of you have been learning to use these tools too. Indeed, teachers have managed in these changing times to do that, to use these tools that are brand new to us. We're so lucky to have a chance to learn new things. I've made a slide here really just to show you what our colleagues at the university and I have worked out the sort of summary of this presentation. We're going to be addressing changes that have occurred since the beginning of the pandemic. So we're really talking about the last 3 years or 4 years. But as Dr. Ani so wisely pointed out to me, it isn't just COVID. It isn't just the global pandemic we've been dealing with. There in Java, in beautiful Yogyakarta, where I visited on my birthday a few years ago in 2012, 2012, I was in Jogja for my birthday, and we visited Prambanan and Borobudur at that time. You have a beautiful city there, but we've all dealt in the last 3 years with challenges. There are social challenges. There are volcano eruptions. There are climate change issues of a variety of types, not necessarily directly there in Java and in Jogja, but around the world. And the world is shrinking. What happens in Australia affects what happens in Indonesia, in Java, in Jogja. And of course, the COVID pandemic has had an impact. When I was waiting to start, I saw that some people in our audience have masks on in their photograph, because nowadays we're wearing masks sometimes so that we can protect ourselves and our friends from disease. This is also new as we've faced these new times. The other things that's changed is that we are doing professional development on Zoom. You know, I couldn't fly to Indonesia for this 3-hour presentation. I couldn't be staying in a hotel and working with you face to face. So I was able to connect with you on Zoom. There's a big time difference, but we're getting used to that too. So many changes are coming to us. And even as you can see in the photograph to the right, there are changes in how the classroom appears to us. What does it look like? In many classrooms nowadays, the students have screens, they have their phones, they have, some of the students are physically in the classroom, some of them are outside the classroom at home. Some of them come, some of them are not there. Some use cameras, some don't. We're going to be talking about these changes and how those changes impact our lives as professionals. So our program today is a bit special for me, and I'm excited about it because I've never done a 90-minute presentation on Zoom. And so I have thought about this quite a lot, and I've decided to call it housekeeping. And I'm going to invite you to sort of think about this presentation in a slightly new way. Many of the participants here are in Indonesia, are in Java, in Yogyakarta. And I wanted to be sure to point out that there's 2 levels here. One is the content of the presentation, and the other is the reality that I am not Indonesian. As it happens, I'm not Muslim either, as many of our participants today are not Muslim. We are in a shrinking world, ladies and gentlemen. And so I'm going to be enjoying the chance to try out a couple of tools to keep you involved and hopefully to help you to enjoy this presentation and to learn from it. We have hard data. We have research that shows that when we are happy, when we enjoy what we're doing, it is better. It is better than if we're bored. And so one of our challenges these days is to make Zoom, make online learning interesting and enjoyable for participants. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do today. So I'm going to also ask you to do a little assignment. And this is kind of informal, but I am quite serious about it. And I would ask you to think about 2 different kinds of questions. The first one would be a question you might ask me about the content that you write in the chat box. You actually could type in the chat box your question. I'll try to monitor it, and I'm sure our colleagues who are helping me with this presentation there in Jogja will help too. The second kind of question is more about a kind of thoughtful question, something that you don't want to jump on it. You don't want to put it in the chat box. You want to wait until the end of the presentation when you've had a chance to sort of think about it and maybe take a note on a notebook, some old school system of writing a note to yourself. So really, there are two different kinds of questions with Zoom. One is one that you put in the chat box right now. Please clarify this because I really don't understand what you're saying, or I want to know more about this. Can you please give us a reference for that? Those kinds of questions are fine to put in the chat box. But if you have a more deep question or a question that is perhaps something you want to clarify it for yourself before you ask it, we have time at the end for a Q&A where you can ask questions. And I encourage you to do that. The more questions, the richer is the discussion. Then finally, take away at least one idea that you can use next week, not someday in the future, maybe when you're old, but something you can actually use in the near future, something you could do. I invite you to consider, and I will actually make this a little assignment for you. So two things, two different kinds of questions, and one idea that you have to take away that you will use in the future. So laying the groundwork is a kind of idiom in English, American English, and you might have heard it before. Do you know what it means? You probably do. Laying the groundwork, it's what I'm doing. What are you doing, Dr. England? Why are you here? What is it that you have to say to us? And I invite you here. This is really just a kind of snapshot, one small picture. And the visual is, by the way, of a house being built, because that's kind of the groundwork, right? Where we build underneath the house before we build the house up. That's what we're doing here. I'm going to be addressing with you today teachers, not learners, but teachers. So those of you in the audience who are not teachers, I think probably there'll be very few. I hope most of you are teachers. And if you're not a teacher now, you might be one in the future if you're in the teacher education program. So I'm going to be talking directly to teachers, but not students, not learners. Teacher experiences and professional excellence in teaching, research, and service. Three areas that in the United States and in Indonesia too, and other parts of the world, we evaluate professors on the basis of the quality of their teaching, their research, and their service. Those three are very important to our work, our professional work. Teaching, how do we teach? How well do we teach? Are the students happy? Are they learning? Do they get good scores on the test? Research, are we publishing articles in journals? Are we presenting at conferences? And service. Service is community service, which is very much in line with the religion and with the lifestyle in Indonesia, where you help other people, right? Community service. So you might have a friend whose child has difficulty learning English, and you might help that kid a little bit for free. You don't get money in exchange. You just do it as a kindness. We have also professional service. So you might have, for example, a job as a leader in a teacher's community. In Indonesia, you have TEFLIN. It is the TESOL Association of English Teachers. Hundreds of people volunteer to help TEFLIN. They don't get money. They only do it for service purposes, professional service. So community service and professional service, research and teaching. That's what we're going to be talking about today, is how do we do those three? Then we're going to be looking at what I have discovered in the book to which Kiki kindly referred at the beginning in my introduction about the components of TESOL professional career path development. So there are 5 components, there are 5 factors that we identified in our research, and those are listed here. We're going to go through those in detail in my presentation. But those are the 5 factors that influence our careers from the time that we're pre-service, when we're studying in the university to be a teacher, all the way through our career. There are 5 factors that influence us, and those are listed. And then there are also 5 stages of career path development. We'll be talking about those as well. And in order to deal with change and to manage change well, we have to think about the 5 factors, and we have to think about the 5 stages. I'll be asking you this question again, but I'll just give you a preview now. I'm going to ask you, what stage are you in your professional career path?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can drop the answer in the chat box, please.
Thank you so much. So I'm telling you about me, and this is not just blah, blah. This is Dr. England, interesting, blah, blah, blah. No, this is so that you can get an idea how to write your own professional profile. We know that it is very helpful for teachers every now and then, maybe once a year, maybe once every 6 months, to literally write down in a little notebook their professional self. Who am I as a teacher? What did I do in the last 6 months or year that is interesting? Well, I'm giving you some highlights, but I've focused these on my audience here, which is dominantly Indonesians, and I'm thinking mostly English teachers. I am now a semi-retired teacher educator. It means I had a career of almost 40 years working, as you already know, in a number of countries. My teaching position is anchored in the US, but I go out of the US for different projects. And this is I sort of filled the one screen, the 6 milestones, we call these, of my career and my professional self. But you should be thinking of those for you. What did you do in your professional career that has changed you and moved you forward in your career path development? And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those either now or later. I don't read to you the slide. You can read it. You're a very good reader.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please drop the question through chat box, please, maybe about yourself, like in what stage you are now as the pre-service teachers, or probably now as the semi-retired teachers, or probably in other stages. Please drop your answer in the chat box. Okay, well, me myself, I'm probably in the mid-career teacher.
Well, you're going to have a chance.
So,
yeah, I'm going to ask you. That's a really good. I'm so happy you said that.
yeah,
I would agree. And there are many factors that go into the decision to decide where you are. Let's see. So here I am in Indonesia, and I want to talk to you a little about my experience there, because I know that you are interested in my time in Indonesia. I'm going to start in the middle. You see those shoes? You see the shoes? This is my favorite photograph of my time in Makassar. My students would come to my house and do some work there because I had internet there. We didn't have it so good in the class. So they would come to my house, but of course they put their shoes outside. And I always use this slide when I make presentation to say project-based instruction in Indonesia. Always you have your shoes. I have many pictures of the students inside my house. You can see the ladies there up in the right-hand corner. They are in the house. They were making posters that they presented to an audience. The top picture is at a beautiful beach. And it's not in Makassar. We were in far away. Oh, I've forgotten now. Far to the far eastern part of the country. I can't remember the name of the city, but we did an access camp with a group of Indonesian high school kids, and we were there for the weekend in camp. Beautiful experience. The bottom right is at we were in Banda Aceh, with some lovely students in a pesantren. A pesantren is an Indonesian boarding school, Muslim boarding school, and we did teacher training there for a week. And I was so grateful to have that opportunity. The left side of the screen bottom is the flash mob. Does everyone know what is flash mob? Anybody want to tell me if you know?
I guess
Maybe
it's first. Okay.
Yeah.
Any ideas what the flash mob is?
Sometimes we need silence to wait for somebody to speak. So let's give people a chance. Anybody know flash mob? There's flash mob.
I think it's like a dance. Maybe it's like a bunch of people do dance together or something.
Yeah. I taught a course called Cross-Cultural Communication. And I really want to hear from the participants in our program, not only the organizers. So we'll give next time we'll give others a chance. Thank you for modeling. Good question, a good answer. The flash mob is a group of people dancing, but the course was cross-cultural communication. And I told the 90 students in the class that I wanted them to do a project that would integrate the concepts of the course. So we had a course called Cross-Cultural Communication. And in the course, I presented them with the 5 dimensions of culture from Hofstede, which is a really cool tool for Indonesia as it happens. These students had so much fun. And the flash mob was the project. And the way they integrated the concepts, we could talk about that in another presentation, but the way they did it was to talk about insiders. Yeah, Indonesians in Indonesia are a group, right? Outsiders are me, or foreigners in Indonesia. And we were learning so much about that sense of group. So when the dance happens, when they do the flash mob, they are a group, right? And then the audience is another group. So it's a cross-cultural communication experience between the performers, in this case, the students, and the audience, who were other students. They were public. I'll tell you about the flash mob another time. I hope I don't know if I can play this, but I'm going to, well, that's the next slide, and I don't want that. I wanted to play. This has an audio with it, but I have a feeling it's not going to work because it just goes to the next slide. Anyway, it's a clip. I'm sorry I can't play it, but I can give you the link. The whole thing is on YouTube. Thanks to one of my colleagues in Makassar, he was able to videotape it and record it and put it up on YouTube for us. So these are pictures of me in other parts of my career. I thought it would be interesting for you to see some photographs of other parts of the world. The top left, you probably can guess. Where do you think I am in that picture? Top left. Can you guess? Anyone in the audience? Egypt. Yeah, you can see the pyramids. I used to live in Egypt for 6 years. Now on the right, yeah, a long time. And then we have an elephant in Botswana, which is in the southern part of Africa. The next photograph is one of my favorite beloved friends from the university, the American University in Cairo. That's Alexandria, Egypt. The Mediterranean Sea is behind us. Isn't that beautiful? And then we have, I've got to move myself because all I can see is our faces here. Just a second. There we go. My son is a professor of Arabic language, and he has these T-shirts called Keep Calm and Learn an African Language. His department at the University of Wisconsin is called African Languages. So I bought the T-shirts so I could donate to his department. Bottom left is a meeting I attended in Africa. The middle, the guy with the T and the green scarf over his head, can you guess where is that? We have another guesser in our audience? It's scary, right? No idea. That's Libya. Libya, yeah. We went on a holiday trip from Egypt to Libya, which is very close to Egypt. And on the right is the very famous Al-Azhar University in Cairo, where we had actually a lot of Indonesian students who were there working on their Islamic history and culture and education programs. But these are not them. These are teachers of English who were the teachers of some Indonesian students in Cairo who got some kind of fellowship or grant to go to Egypt to Al-Azhar University. And we did a program for English teachers there, and it was a wonderful experience. Al-Azhar University is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, universities in the world. I was very lucky to go to this place.
Do you speak Arabic, ma'am?
شوية شوية مش كتير يعني.
شوية خير.
Yeah, and the Indonesians in Makassar, they didn't speak. They didn't speak Maya, or only the Fusa from the book. All right, we're going to stop here for a minute.
Yeah.
We're going to stop for a moment, and here I'm going to model for you a chance to do some talking, because really this is one of the changes.
We'll start in 5 minutes, yeah?
Sorry? Stop and take a moment now to think, read your notes, notice, or ask anything you like. Some teachers like to keep a notebook with their career milestones. Remember, I showed you my milestones. I want you to think for a moment now, just 1 minute. And then if you have a question, please put it in the chat box. I see there are 4 questions. I'm going to look at those. Hello, committee. Depositors, share the materials here, please. Dancing together in silence. Egypt, India. Good guess, Ani. Yeah, Kim, thank you for writing. I hope we get some more of our Ratri. Thank you for your answer about Egypt. Yay. Any thought? Oops, here we go. Sorry about that. I don't know what happens. It keeps bouncing, doesn't it? Any questions you want to ask me or each other? It is fine to put it in the chat box. We have about 100 people, so it's helpful that we take time, but we don't have to take a lot of time. I have plenty of words to share with you. Thank you. Please, I want to hear from all members of the audience, if possible.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please raise the questions, or you can drop the question in the chat box.
Thank you so much.
And
Yeah, Mbak Kiki.
oh yes, please, Pak Hendra, would you, if you want to raise your question, please, time is yours.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation and nice explanation about the current issues and the changing situation. What I'm
I'm not finished. I'm not finished, but I want to take your question.
Yeah. Suaya. During the pandemic, we got a kind of shocking question related to the learning loss.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about this issue and how to deal with that? Yeah.
Yeah, we've had that in the US as well. It's a very serious problem. And I just came back from a conference where some really cool teachers were talking about what they're doing. In one school in Virginia, they are actually giving the students another year. And these are children. They're in the 5th grade, so 9 or 10 years old. In the university, I think we have to make adjustments because the fact is that you can't have an emergency situation and tell teachers, oh, on Tuesday you have to go online and expect anybody to learn anything. Yeah, it just doesn't happen. And so this is one of the biggest changes. That's a really good one that you've had to make in your professional life in Jogja after the World Health Organization announced the global pandemic. What kinds of changes have you made in your short-term professional development and long-term? So, for example, in some universities and some schools, the faculty, the professors, the teachers have been required to attend professional development events where they have to learn how to do Kahoot, or they have to learn how to do Zoom, or I don't know. I mean, I have actually a rather detailed list of things that colleagues and I have worked out to help teachers as well. But I would like you to jot it down either in the chat box or on your notes about something you did for your professional development during this time, something new. Learn to use Zoom, learn to use the camera, learn to help students to be engaged. Some teachers, they have the students put their arms up, you know, every 10 minutes so they don't get bored, and they force them to keep the camera on. In Saudi Arabia, they have a lot of problems with that because of the culture, and the girls don't want to have the camera on. So there are lots of issues for discussion, for research, and how do teachers handle these things? These are really important questions. Yeah,
thank you.
You are welcome. Just keep it coming. All right, 9:10. I'm watching the time because I have a kind of plan here. Now, I'm going to begin by talking about kind of traditional teaching skills and what we used to do. I'm a professional a teacher educator, and these are the things we teach people. And those of us who are on the screen now, and I suppose there are students here too among the others that I can't see. What we give our students in teacher training is applied linguistics, cross-cultural communication, pedagogy. These are the top, general topics. So we do phonetics, and we do phonology, and we do syntax, and literature, and discourse analysis, and it goes on. The coursework toward the master's, which is the terminal degree in our field, it includes these courses that I've taught over my career, and you all are familiar with it. But ladies and gentlemen, my 2 master's degrees, my PhD, bachelor's degree, did not prepare me for COVID. I have a lot of experience, and I was not ready to teach with this emergency remote teaching that we were required to do. So I would invite you to consider, what is it that you're teaching teachers, and what is it that teachers are learning that they can actually use in their real life job of teaching English in Jogja and beyond. Nowadays, we have to change everything. We have to include applied linguistics and pedagogy and cross-cultural, but we also need all of these. Right? In the US, this is a US perspective, of course. And you will find it as useful as you will. But we have technology skills and use of technology. We know technology in our brains, but can we use it to teach? Those are 2 different things. Many modes of instruction: face-to-face, hybrid, virtual, online, distance, synchronous, asynchronous, and high flex. Oh my goodness. The need for community. I recently did a very nice presentation in Qatar on community building for teachers, where we have each other to network. We have communities of learners, like my students who did the flash mob. I'm going to tell you about that soon. We have big problems in the US. This next one is the big resignation. We have 390,000 teaching jobs in the US that are vacant. Nobody wants to be a teacher anymore. It's too hard. We have a big problem. The quiet quit, where teachers, they're working, they go to work every day, but they don't do anything. They just go and they kind of pretend, to do their job on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but they don't really work. We have the quiet firing, where the boss doesn't have the strength to fire a teacher, but they just push them aside, where the teacher is sitting on the side, doesn't have anything to do, feels bad about himself. Employee retention, returning to work with unknowns. We don't know what the future is going to bring. Oops. Emergency teaching. We had to do this very quickly because it happened overnight. We needed to be able to teach remotely. We have an expression in American English, and maybe you use it in Indonesia, Bahasa Indonesia as well, is pivoting online. Like you pivot, you just turn from here, face to face, here, online. It's not so easy. It's difficult to teach online. Educational impact of the global pandemic on children. Somebody was just talking about that. The fact that children are behind, especially in the rural areas, especially in the places where there aren't resources or internet. And so teaching and language teaching in particular are essential. We say doctors and nurses are essential to COVID, all of the medical staff, but teachers are essential too. And we haven't really explored or done research to determine what that means. What happens when you don't have teachers that know how to teach online? I told you we were going to talk about teaching, research, and service. And here's the research part. What do you want to do research on? How to choose a topic? One lady in Pakistan contacted me recently. She wants to do her dissertation on the use of cell phone in English for university students. Really great topic. How do students use cell phone to learn English now? They didn't do that so much before, but now they have to. What's important to you to study? What do you notice in your classroom that's happening that you want to study it? What hasn't been done yet? Well, I'll tell you, it's a very rich field. You can study anything. So many things to study about online and synchronous and asynchronous and high flex teaching. Day-to-day questioning and reflecting, identifying a research question, finding colleagues to work with as a network, a group. It's so much more fun. And I'll be talking a little more about that too, of community, a small group of colleagues who work together on a research project. It can be so empowering to have this experience. And finally, sharing your research on presentations and publications. Usually in universities, you have to do it. It's required for your tenure and promotion and retention. These are some recent books I wanted to draw your attention to, and they are relatively new. They've come out since COVID. And these are books that address the issue of teachers. I told you we're going to be talking more about teachers than learners today, and that's what these books do. Teacher resilience. I've made presentations. I've attended a dozen presentations on this topic, how strong teachers are morally and intellectually, and how well they've dealt with this challenge of being forced into these roles of teaching remotely. Teachers taking care of themselves, this book by Patrice Palmer, and we'll be talking about this topic in more depth soon, because we know that teachers who don't take care of themselves don't take care of their students either. And so we want to encourage teachers to take care of themselves in order to maintain a sense of excellence. And finally, this third book is Teacher Wellbeing in English Language Teaching. That is I believe it's an edited volume, and it's about marginalized groups of various descriptions, and it's a very good evidence-based treatment. So I just wanted to bring these to your attention because they're all about the changes that we've been managing over the last 3 years. We're going to move now to service. I talked earlier about community and professional service, two different kinds of service. Community service is, in Indonesia, in my experience, it is deeply embedded in your beloved religion and culture. Community service. All people donate their time, their money, they do it for free. They do it for nothing in return. It is, I think it's zakat in Arabic. Volunteer tutoring and church projects or temple projects or mosque projects, community support for underserved populations. If you have refugees in Jogja, you might know of projects that are being done by the community to help those refugees, schools and so on. When I went to Banda Aceh, I heard so many stories of how much people helped each other during the tsunami of 2010. So many people did so much for each other. And the stories warmed my heart. Now, community service is volunteer, but it's not professional service. Professional service is different, and we do both in TESOL. And during the pandemic, we've had opportunities to do these. So professional service means committee service in the university. It means being on a hiring committee. It means a promotion committee where you write a letter of support for a colleague. It can be at the local level where you have a small group of teachers or professors who meet together and support each other's work in whatever way. National, regional, and international, all of those are different levels of service. I personally have contributed to all of those across my career. I love professional service. And this event today, in a way, offers me a chance to provide professional service. This YouTube snapshot there is just one example of an event series that we do in Career Path Development Professional Learning Network. And we have all of our webinars on YouTube for people to watch if they don't want to stay up late at night. So, questions, concerns, things you can think of about your own teaching, your own research, and your own service activities. What are questions you have, or ideas, or problems, or rewards you've experienced as a TESOL professional in these last 3 years? What is meant by teachers taking care of themselves? Oh, good. Yes. Astri, thank you. Does it refer to academic, personal? Yes. We're going to talk about this. Astri, thank you. Teachers taking care of themselves is really important. It's about life balance. That means that we take care of our bodies, right? We do exercise, we take care of our physicals, we take a walk. Our minds, we learn new things every day to keep track, to help us keep our minds working well, and soul, our heart. So our religion, or our meditation, or our reflection, or our mandi, our bathing in the afternoon, those are reflective times where we take care of our soul. Yeah, and I'll be talking more about that soon. Your YouTube window is being shared. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, but I believe you.
I thought you didn't want us to see your YouTube.
Hi, Judy.
Hello, dear.
Hi, dear. No, you can show us anything you want. No, yeah, I do want people to see the YouTubes. That's why I
didn't realize it was part of your slide. I thought maybe it was.
Oh, I gotcha. I see. It was just I took a snapshot of it. That's all. Introducing Judy Wong, who's from New York. She's my beloved friend and colleague. Does great things with lots of activities in and outside of TESOL. Judy's an example of somebody who's had a balanced career, and we'll be talking about that. So thank you, Judy, for being here to show us in the flesh who you are. Okay, we're going to move now to teacher education quick. That was the first of the 5 kind of factors that influence career path development. Now, when you are, as many in this 118 folks in this call, teacher education is very important in pre-service. Before you start to teach, you're a student. You're learning how to teach. You have beloved professors who help you in your effort to learn applied linguistics and pedagogy and cross-cultural communication. Teacher education is less important for me. Yeah, it's not the same. I finished my formal education pretty much. I take little courses here and there. I'm thinking of becoming a licensed yoga teacher, but teacher education is pretty much lesser as you go through your career. So in the past, teacher educators were sure of what we wanted new teachers to learn, but now it's just not so sure. What can we learn from the past? What can we do now? And what might we do to prepare for the future? We don't know what the future is going to be, but we know some parts of it. And I think we are in a better place now than we were, say, a year or two ago in terms of changing teacher education programs to include those things that the teachers are going to need down the road after they graduate. So in the olden days, when I was working full-time, traditional teacher education was those three that we mentioned in general. But now there's all this other stuff that teachers need to know, is how to use technology, what's available, that there are many modes of instruction, not only face-to-face. We used to only talk about face-to-face. I was fortunate to be the director of an online TESOL master's program, the first one in the United States. It opened in 1999. So I learned about teaching online earlier than most of my colleagues who had not had that experience. But there's just all these new terms that we use in terms of, what we're going to how we're going to deliver instruction in teacher education. The value of community, the importance of students to feel like they're part of a group, the importance of professors to have a community that they trust and that they love and that help them and that they help, that there's mutuality of assistance there. That's what a community of practice is. Communities are more important now than they ever were in the past. The digital nomad, hoping somebody will ask, and emergency remote teaching. These are all new for us. Yeah. And teachers are getting sort of like they have a big backpack on their back with so many new things they have to be able to handle. It's pretty cool. And we can manage, but we've got to help teachers to get the skills they need in order to do it. So far in your teacher education program, what did you learn that you use every day, that you don't use very often? I think sometimes we teach teachers things they don't need. We have to be careful to think as teacher trainers, what are we giving our teachers that they need? What else would you like to know in order to teach well? These are the questions we would want to ask our students so that we can be sure that we're giving them what they need and not what we just think that they need or that we needed ourselves when we were their age, because it's not the same world anymore.
That's very interesting, Dr. England.
Yeah. What do you want to say about that?
Oh, well, actually, I'd like to, have some kind of example probably from you that in this era, what kind of, themes or probably topics that we shouldn't give to our students, because as you say that sometimes we give our students something that they do not need. So how can we choose which one is really best for them maybe in the future, and probably they will not use it in the future or for now? How did you manage so far?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I thank you for it. The mission of your program, the mission of your university will guide you. First of all, you don't have to just make it up in your head, right? And so what many universities are doing is when the students go out for practical training, you might send your students for SMA, they go out to one of the schools to teach, and they come back and they tell you what's going on in the school. Because you're in the university, you're kind of isolated inside of this, safe place. But the teachers that you're training are going out and doing practical training. Then you go and observe them, but you might ask them, what some teacher educators are doing now is research on the practicum to find out what is going on in the school, that there's a mismatch. Also, students do feedback questionnaires and surveys after they finish a course or after they finish the program, and they would be asked questions about, what did you learn that was helpful to you? What did you learn that maybe wasn't so useful? And so it's sort of a big job, but it is not something I can tell you. It is a task that happens inside the institution. You're offering this degree to these teachers, and you want to make sure that the content of that degree is serving their needs and those of the students that they work with in the school. So, for example, you add a course in technology and English language teaching, let's say, for the sake of the conversation. I don't know if you have that course, but you might have a course that says technology for English language teaching in your program. And but the teachers aren't using anything they learned in that course when they go into the practicum, because the school doesn't use those tools that they were taught. So there's a mismatch. This is not abnormal. This happened to me, where our students were saying, we're really glad to have this course, but it doesn't have anything to do with what the kids in grade 7 that I'm going to teach need. So there should be some sort of connection between what the content is and what they actually use. And there are ways of getting that information that a lot of times we just forget about it. We get so caught up in what are we going to teach tomorrow, right? And we don't look at the broader picture. This is usually done in a faculty retreat in the summer, or in sometime when you're off, when you do some kind of professional development for the faculty and administration. It's a great question. Thank you. It's a good question. Let me see. Okay, so we talked about teacher education. I'm going to move to teacher motivation. We always talk about student motivation. Oh, the students aren't engaged. The students aren't motivated. The students sleep. They turn off their camera. I did a workshop recently on turning off the camera. So the students are learning online, but they really, they're playing with their pet, or they're getting a snack. They're not really paying attention. Teacher motivation is something else. If the teacher isn't motivated, the students aren't motivated. It is so common for us to forget that. What challenges do we have in order to keep invested, to engage, and to keep a passion, a sense of enthusiasm in our work? Well, if your internet doesn't connect, that can be demotivating. The time thing, you just don't have enough time you have your families, you have work, you have so much to do. Money, some of us are lazy and we have habits that just don't give us time to do what we have to do. And oftentimes we'll have a bad experience. Yeah, we'll have a bad experience, and that will chop our motivation immediately. It's just like black and white. Yeah, one day you're motivated, the next day you're not, because something happens that just is very painful, and it's hard to keep going. And finally, add one of your own. What challenges have you had in the last 2 or 3 years to your teacher motivation? What has happened that has made you feel less motivated? You don't have to share that one. It might be too personal, but I would invite you to write it down for yourself. We know very well that reflecting on these things can be very powerful. There's a chat. Okay, who have we got here? Ani. Oh, Umi, this month I teach PPG teachers, in-service teachers, and equip them with literacy skills, pedagogy, and numeracy. Good. Good. Yeah, that's a good, I'm glad to know that. And I'd be curious, I'd be curious to know if you're doing that online. Are you doing that online, or face-to-face, Umi? Let's see. Face-to-face. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, that is great. And it sounds like you've got a lot of content to cover. And I think that's where most of us are. And this sort of soft skills I'm talking about are what we often forget. So I'm glad you're here with us. And I hope your students and I hope you are motivated. Great comment. Thanks. So here are some thoughts. And I really, you have so many good ideas that would be suitable to you, but these are things that have come to me from teachers with whom I've been working in the last 3 years. Teachers need to know that they're valued. Yeah. Teachers need to know that they are valued. Passive voice there. Communicate value of teachers to everybody. And we're talking here about we're talking here about all stakeholders, and that means administration, other faculty members, students, alumni, students who've already graduated, teachers in the schools, parents, the long list of stakeholders. The value of teachers is under-communicated in most environments, and it was certainly true in Makassar. So I feel a little bit confident that this is something that might be useful to you to hear. Identify and address signs of burnout. Teachers burn out in ways that are sometimes very hidden, not open. Yeah. And we want to make sure that we address those. It doesn't mean that we excuse it. Yeah, burnout is a negative, right? Burnout means that I'm tired, I'm bored, I quietly quit, I'm not working well, I'm not happy, I'm not excellent. So burnout is not a good thing. But there are ways of helping people who are burnt out. And I would invite us to consider those. That's another presentation too. But identify and address those signs. Don't push them down, don't ignore them. They can turn on a dime. It can be very bad. I live in a very violent country and you don't. So I won't go into that. But I want to say that burnout is a really important thing to address and not to hide or feel ashamed of. Create and support teachers' communities of practice. We know very well that communities can be good opportunities to help, right? That if I have friends that I meet even on Zoom, even if it's not face-to-face, if I have friends or colleagues with whom I can talk, during the lockdown, I worked with a group of Virginia teachers. We called it edutherapy. We would meet once a week on Wednesday, and there were about 5 or 6. It was voluntary. They would come or not come. And we would just talk about what had happened that week that was hard. And some that was not so hard, and some was funny. It was just a little tea party for 5 or 6 teachers who can't go out of their house. We had big lockdown in Virginia, and it was edutherapy. It was very helpful. And these teachers would say I was always the one who said at the end, give us 2 words. Everybody had to go around and give 2 words. How do you feel? And it was always positive at the end. For no reason, except that they had had a chance to talk to each other and get it off their chest. Acknowledge strengths, achievements, and positivity. We so often acknowledge weaknesses, failures, and negativity. Yeah, I want us to be aware of how incredibly strong and achieving and positive some of these teachers are. That book I showed you earlier on teacher resilience, it's filled with examples of teachers who were positive and strong and achieved great results during pandemic. Pay, mentoring, challenges, promotion, involvement. This is the basket of everything else that is so important in motivation that we know from research. The last one is trust, and I should have underlined it. It's probably the most important of all, that we trust each other. and that we can be motivated more if we know that we have each other's back, as we say in American English and probably other varieties too. Trust is really important. Teacher motivation, pretty cool, right? Astri raised her hand. Astri, hi.
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 Okay.
Oh.
Can I have a question? Yeah, because you
Yeah,
say
of course,
stop,
please.
so I assume that it's a question session.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting about the teacher's motivation, since I sometimes feel demotivated due to the pandemic situation, especially like what you have mentioned earlier, when we do the Zoom meeting or Google meeting, the students do not want to turn on the camera, and they just silent whenever we ask questions, even the easiest one. So I was kind of demotivated by that. And another point is about the burnout. You mentioned earlier about the burnout. Addressing burnout is necessary, but we haven't here, I myself haven't found out the best way to manage to manage or to handle that kind of situation, because in Indonesia, especially in Jogja now, lecturer or maybe teachers do not only teach. It's like we are no longer a professional teacher because we have to do a lot of things at exactly the same time and finish many projects that are not related to teaching, perhaps administrative thing and so on. So how is or what is the best way actually to manage or to handle or to overcome this kind of burnout? Thank you.
You're welcome. I would be millionaire if I could answer that brilliant question. Really good question. It is number one. The most important thing for me to say to you is you are not alone. You are in a good group of people who many people are burning out now. But there are I'm going to give this like a short 1 minute answer. Some of it you can control, some of it you cannot. Some of it's the responsibility of supervisor, some of it's your responsibility. Tonight, today, this morning, we're going to be talking about teachers. What can you do for burnout? And what I'm going to suggest is that there are many things you can do. You're not in prison, right? You're not in a box. You're not alone. You have choices. And one thing you can do is start to pay attention to you. And you probably don't, because most teachers don't. It is my experience that most teachers pay attention to their students. My student turns off his camera. My student is in a Google. He doesn't do Jamboard. He won't participate. My student. Stop it. No, it's not your student. It's you, the teacher. Do I like doing online teaching? It's not so great, but I have to do it. Okay, that's fine. You have to do it. You can't change that, right? And you try to come up with ways that you can be happier. Maybe you can find a way to, for example, do some like I was mentioning, physical. Yeah, every 10 minutes. This teacher, it was so funny, at this conference I went to, Southeast TESOL last week, she made us, in the audience, we had to stand up, and it was face-to-face conference, but she was showing us some activities for Zoom, that she uses with her kids, and she makes us stand up and dance in a circle. All the people, 300, academics are standing up in this conference hall, in this convention center, dancing around in a circle. I did a presentation in Dubai a few years ago where I had everybody meditating. They were dead silent for 3 minutes. I mean, there are things you can do for yourself that you should do for yourself, but you have to start thinking about you first, because you are communicating something to your students and you are communicating burnout to them, right? You're not doing them any favors by saying, I'll just pretend I'm happy. Oh, I'm so happy. No, they know, they're not stupid. Yeah, they feel it too. And of course, you're not going to solve all the problems by dancing in a circle or doing any of the things. But what I want to say is, at the end of the day, take care of you. Do one thing, just one thing that you like to do, yeah, and try it, yeah. Just, say, we're going to stop the class, we're going to sing, we're going to stop the class, we're going to dance, we're going to stop. Do something new that shocks them a little, that gives them a change, and you will be you might feel even better yourself. I hope so. I hope I can help you.
Is it that the idea that you mentioned earlier about teachers, what is it? Taking care of themselves and then taking care of the students? Okay. Yeah, so now I have the answers to both my questions.
Yeah, and I'm going to be talking about that in about 5 minutes in a lot more depth.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. It was a great introduction to this part. Oh, yeah.
There is another questions in the chat box, Dr. England. Yes, I'm confused, Mom. My teaching motivation is down when faced with rebel students. So there are, like different kinds of students' characteristics. Yes, please.
Really good question. Rebel student, I love it. I'm going to get a picture of a rebel student. I know exactly what you mean. The way you do it is that you take your notebook and you write down a story about a student that you like. Yeah. So you had an experience with a student you like, and you write it down. And then you write down what you don't like about the rebel student, that he's just wearing you out. You keep having to fight with him because I don't know what he does that's wrong, but it's something. You write down these things, and it's amazing how much better you feel. It's like you put it out of your body and put it on a paper. And if I had 3, one is a student you love, that you write something about a student you love, a student you don't know very well, and a student that is the rebel student. You write just a short paragraph down, write it down. You can write it actually in English or in Bahasa Indonesia, or I don't know what language you use, Bugis. So I encourage teachers to keep like a little notebook for themselves that they don't share with, you don't share it. It's just for you. I hope it helps. One more question, or can we move? Let's see here.
Yes.
Having a rebel.
Dr.
It's like ice breaking. Yeah. Yeah, it can be ice breaking. That's right. Thank you for your comments. I love those people who write comments. Makes me happy. I know you're there. Oh,
please,
so we're done with that.
Dr. Wong would like to raise questions. Yeah.
Liz, can I add something to you?
Yeah, Judy, go.
So, look, I deal with a lot of teachers. I am like Liz, a bit older than you guys. And, but I still run a literacy program in a local public school, which they have been very stressed. So I deal with a lot of stressed teachers. And I might suggest that, especially if you get, because like I have one teacher who's extremely stressed right now because for the first time in her career at the school, she has been given all the rebel students who are very smart, but they're difficult. And it's not so much that they're difficult, which some people don't understand, is that sometimes it's just they're very, very smart or they learn differently. And it's not easy on a teacher that's not used to those kind of students.
Yeah.
So what I suggest to her, and I'll suggest to you, is when you're getting that super demotivation kind of feeling, like, I can't do this. And she's literally told me, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't make it another day. And I've told her, you can, because you're a brilliant teacher. And look at all the hundreds of thousands of students you have put through that have done well. And what I say to you as teachers, when you feel at your absolute lowest, what I've done during my teaching career, because now I just teach teachers, is write down every reason you wanted to teach in the first place. Why did you want to teach? What was making you in love with being with your students? Because sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that. Because when you do, you start thinking, well, I was here because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to show these children that they can be loved. Maybe they're in their families or they're refugees. I work with a lot of refugees and immigrants. Maybe they have had a really rough life themselves. So sometimes you have to put yourself in their shoes too. But also remind yourself, when you think you can't do it anymore, remind yourself of all the wins you've had in your career. Not just the last troubles in the last year or two, but all the wins that you have. Because they will outnumber by thousands all of the troubles you think you're going through right now.
Thanks, Judy. Yeah, Judy's a leader, and we have leaders here. All of us are leaders. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit is that's a good segue, because leaders are people who basically have followers. You're not a leader because somebody told you that you're the boss, right? And when we lead, we do what Judy was talking about. We try to find tools for people to address the problems they have. So as we evolve through our careers, as we go through the stages of our careers, the 5 stages in my model, if we go through those stages, we become leaders over the time that we are professionals. We take initiative and we work with other people, and we address signs of teachers' physical and mental health challenges. And that's just what Judy was saying with her friend. It's very, very important now. And even the Surgeon General will be talking about that. The US Surgeon General has recently been talking about workplace mental health for the first time, and teachers particularly are addressing this problem in schools and in universities too. So leadership is part of career path development, and it's part of what we're doing to manage the challenges we're facing these days. So I invite you to think, we're not going to really stop for this because we're actually, I can't believe it, but we're kind of behind schedule. I've so enjoyed this, by the way. I'm enjoying this very much. What leadership skills do you have now that you think you have? What do you do that you think is a leader's skill? And what do you want to acquire in the future? And that would be something for a teacher education program to consider, that a teacher is a leader of students in a classroom, right? And we're leaders for each other as well as teacher colleagues. But you need skills to do that. You're not necessarily born with the skills that you need to be a leader. There are people, I think, who have the gift of leading, and there are people who are less good at it. And we found that in the pandemic. Some of the teachers that really rose to the top in our community that I'll be talking about soon, those teachers were invisible before. The pandemic was a trigger for those teachers to become more leaders than they were in the past. Very interesting how that happened. Next one is organizational development. There are 2 types of organizations that we know contribute to our professional development in TESOL. Language teaching associations such as TEFLN in the Indonesian TESOL affiliate. I know you have some British Council as well, and you have other local, regional, national, international associations. But language teaching associations help us grow. And a workplace is the second organization, the place where you work, your school, your university, the job description you have, the hierarchy, the way you assess yourself, if at all, peer feedback, is there a place for teachers to get feedback from each other and supervisor evaluation? It's not just about the evaluation at the end of the year. It's also the peer feedback you get and how good that is and how well you learn to assess yourself as a teacher. I think somebody had a question, and I'm going to ask you just to wait just a second, but I hope you'll ask your question. Oh, so the question is, are you a member of a professional language teaching association, and does your boss support your professional development? Yes. Hi, you have your hand up.
Yeah.
Hello.
Silakan Ibu. Hello. Waalaikumsalam. Okay, please, Bu. Raise questions.
Actually, I'm going to ask questions or maybe a kind of solution. But first of all, I just want to say that I'm so glad to join this Zoom meeting. Thank you for UAD for holding this meeting. Yeah, and so glad to see you, Ma'am Elizabeth. Yeah, it's kind of going back to in my university again. So I've been teaching English since 2004, ma'am. And of course, me, yeah. Okay, I'm probably tell you that I've been teaching English since 2004 and for
Yes.
O level.
What is your question? Sorry.
Okay, my question is how can I get a kind of a channel or what is it? How can I get a cooperation with those who can help us with some foreign teachers or foreigners as the native speakers talk to our students just like this is the best time for practicing their English, whether they speak English well with the native speakers like that, not only with us, with their teachers. We are Indonesian English like that.
You want to know how you can get native speakers of English to talk to your students?
Yeah.
A really good question and a really important one. Are you in Jogja? I think you're muted.
Sorry, we cannot hear you, Ibu. Would you please open your microphone?
We are in Pekalongan.
Yes.
We are in Pekalongan, ma'am. In Pekalongan. Long time ago, in 2011, I joined. I speak English club, and we have foreigners come to Pekalongan and Batang like that. But it was a long time ago.
Well, I mean, nowadays with technology, you can bring students into your classroom. When I was in Makassar, When I was in Makassar, I was working with some students who were the first generation of college students in their whole family. They were from the countryside and they had no experience. I was the first white person they'd ever been anywhere near in their life, and certainly the first native speaker of English. So we found a group of, particularly the girls, this was the girls in the class. We got them on Facebook. You know Facebook?
Yeah.
And I had worked with a girls' school in Oman. Oman is in the Arabian Gulf, and they speak Arabic there. And those girls are Muslims. And my girls in Makassar speak Bugis and Bahasa Indonesia. They don't speak Arabic. But the groups of girls met on Facebook, and the only language they had in common was English. So they had to speak English with each other, and they were so happy to meet each other. And not all of them worked out, but at least 10 of these pairs, they continue today to be in touch with each other. They're friends. I was so happy to be able to use Facebook in this way. So that's one example that you can use technology and social media to help your students find English speakers.
I see. Okay,
It's a good idea.
At that time, I asked Pak Dahlan, you know Mr. Dahlan? At that time, he was still abroad, maybe in Ohio or somewhere. And then he promised me to have that kind of session with my students and some students abroad there. But in fact, until he comes back to Indonesia, it never happened like that. And oh, sorry, he said that, oh, we cannot make you have a relationship with some students abroad there at that time. But so that's why, ma'am. So maybe some of your teachers, no, some of your students there, or some students in some school, and that we can communicate and we learn together. We learn English and they learn Bahasa Indonesia from us like that. But till now on, it never happened. And now he has already come back to Indonesia.
Okay.
Like that, man. Okay, then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
I wish you well. I hope you can use Facebook to find some people to speak to with your students. We're teaching English, and the idea is to have a way and a reason to speak English with somebody you don't know. So professional language teaching associations are really important for career path development, and I wanted to share with you the slides of my beloved Indonesian connections. TEFL is very active in Indonesia. There's this is a Teflon conference in, I wanted to say in Jogja. We had the Teflon conference in 2013, and I'm sorry, I don't remember where. And then the students here on the right were in a wonderful access program where we met. And professional language teacher associations in Indonesia are so important. You are island nation of islands. And so it's very easy to become isolated. And English is, I think, my observation, I don't know if you agree with me, but English is a way to connect with both the people in your own country, but also outside of your country. It's very easy in Indonesia to be isolated, and I worry sometimes about that. But these are some photographs that are fond memories of me of Indonesia. A group that I founded is called TESOL Career Path Development Professional Learning Network, and I invite all of you to join us if you haven't already. I think some of you already have joined us. That's the website for our organization. The URL is there. It's a brand new website. I'm very proud of it. We have a mentorship program for mentors and mentees, about 40 pairs of mentors, mentees that do extraordinary work. The unique signature idea about this mentor program is career path development that is driven by the mentee. So it's not the mentor, me, telling you, let's say, for the sake of the conversation, if you were my mentee, you would tell me what you want to do. Usually the mentor tells the mentee what to do, but in our model, it's just the opposite. Mick King is really the father of this program for us. He really pushed for this idea of mentee driven. And I'm very happy that he did that because our mentees do extraordinary work. Rezwana in Bangladesh has just recently flown to Arizona. She's about 50. She's a mid-career person. She's not young. And she got on a plane and left Bangladesh and is now in Arizona on a fully funded PhD program. And all of that happened as she was in the CLIMB program. My two mentees, one is in Uzbekistan, the other one's in Maryland in the US. They are on fire. They're presenting at TESOL 2023. They're amazing, these two women, and they wanted to do it. We do the YouTube photograph you've seen before, but it's of our webinar program. We offer webinars about twice a month with various topics of interest to our members. I think we have now over almost 900 members at TESOL International Association, and we have 1,500 members on Facebook. Some of those people are TESOL members and some of them are not. I'm very proud of those programs. And there are others. There's something called 60 Seconds of TESOL. We're going to be launching that one soon, where you make a videotape of yourself and just say 1 minute of something that happened to you this year. So 2021 was 60 Seconds of TESOL 2021. And I think Judy may have sent one. Lots of people sent their videos talking about something that happened to them that was related to their professional development. Just 60 seconds. I think we had about 60 audios. Go to our website. You can find all this stuff. We have rules, and I think this is also relevant to this talk. As time has passed, we've discovered that social media can be a friend or an enemy. So we found out on Facebook that we had to set up rules. Amira Salama, my wonderful colleague who helped me to set up this Facebook page, created these 4 rules, very simple. But if you don't agree to these rules, you can't join our group. And we've learned that we have to be careful because sometimes people do things that we didn't expect. Social media is something new to many of us as in the last 2 or 3 years. It's a wonderful tool if we use it well. And we have to teach our students to use it well too. They don't know how to use social media. They don't come, pre-wired to know how to evaluate websites or how to use social media or how to post. They'll say anything. They don't know. We have to teach them how to do it. And we don't have a lot of research to go on. And we need research on social media and English language teacher education. A workplace culture, and our friend who brought up the bit on burnout and Judy's comment, our places of work are essential elements in life balance. We spend a lot of time working, right? It's 10:30 at night and I'm working. And all of us work a lot. So our workplaces are essential elements to keep us balanced or not. And if we have a bad workplace, it's not good. If we have a good workplace, we look forward to going to work and we're positive about it. But I would invite you to answer this question. What's the relationship between your work life and your home life? What is the relationship between the two? In the US, in the last 3 years, they've been combined. People have been working from home, so they don't have a home life and a work life. They only have one life, and that's at home, and that's where they work. How can you use technology and remote teaching and learning to improve your work culture and your workplace for you, for your colleagues, and your supervisors? Those are just some points that I wanted to raise up in this presentation. I mentioned the U.S. Surgeon General just the other week. I think it was last week. Judy, correct me if I'm wrong. The recent announcement from the U.S. Surgeon General on workplace mental health, extremely important. It is part of health. The workplace mental health is part of health, and teachers are among those who are in workplaces that are impacting their mental health. It's very important that we consider mental health as part of our career path development. It is not separate. It is not add-on. It is central to our workplace performance and happiness. So what questions or comments do you have now about the role of professional language teacher associations, workplace organizations on your career path development?
I'm going to add a note here because of our joint with TESOL and IATEFL, which I am both extremely active in both. The young lady who was just asking about how she could get speakers to come into her classroom. Join the associations.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
When you join the associations, you will meet people from all over English-speaking countries as well as non-English-speaking countries. And I will be quite honest, many, many years ago, when I changed over from teaching academics using the arts to predominantly only teaching TESOL, I worked initially. So I've been working online for 15 years. I worked initially as a joint collaborative teacher with many other teachers in many other countries. And we would either collaborate where I would bring in students from my classroom into their classroom and they could chat with each other, or their students would come into my classroom, or I would go in as a guest speaker into their classroom, while they were having classes, and I would talk with the children on a subject, and I would teach a lesson in English. So there's many ways you could do that. And I strongly, strongly encourage you to join IATUFL and or TESOL. Both are wonderful organizations. And it is a way for you to broaden your horizons as well. Because I always tell my teachers that I teach that you, and somebody, I think Rifki asked about what is an essential thing that teachers need to learn. And I think it's something we tend not to teach them in the past, is that you will always be a teacher as well as a student, and that your students are your teachers. So don't just go into this thinking you are the one who has all the answers, because very often you will find your students have answers for you to make you a better teacher. And I think that's what we need to start teaching our teachers.
Thanks, Judy. Beautiful. Yeah, teachers associations can be a good place to feel like you've got, you're not alone. I feel like I need to underscore that. And if you think that, you know, your students, if you and your students are enemies, you really have to unpack that, because they know how you feel about them. It's not a secret. And you are not helping yourself by keeping that going, perpetuating it. You're the boss. The power is in your hands, not the students. And I would invite you to consider, what can you do? I mean, this is part of why we've had such a resignation in this country. People, many teachers have been unable to manage through this. And, you know, I have a positive message here today, and I want to tell you the stories of these amazing teachers who've done wonderful things and are happy. But there are the other stories of people who've struggled and have left the profession. We have a colleague, Sharon Jaden Glass. She has a group of fabulous former teachers who are instructional designers. They've taken their TESOL skills and gone into another field. And I'm not advocating that, but I am telling you that this is a new thing. That's one thing that people do, is instructional design. And there are many things you can do with your TESOL skills that might give you a rest and a break from what you're doing if you're not happy. Don't stay in the classroom if you're not happy. You're not doing anybody any favors. We're going to move now to life balance. And this is my last of the 5. Remember the 5 factors: teacher education, teacher motivation, leadership, workplace, and service opportunities. Life balance is the last one. We know in the West, and certainly from research that is international, that life balance is essential. That in order to be effective, to be excellent, and to be happy, you need balance in your life. And so many of us are focused on our mind. Yeah, and teacher education is often focused on the teacher's mind, getting more information into the teacher's head, testing to make sure they know this information, watching them teach to see if they can do a good job in a practical teaching situation. But it's all mind stuff. And our bodies and our souls sometimes take a second seat. At least in the West, this is the case. My colleagues in other parts of the world do a better job on soul, but all of us can do well to be reminded of the value of life balance. So what are some ways to address needs of your body? We're going to do body, mind, and soul. And by the way, nobody does it perfectly. I mean, you say, gosh, I've been working all day at my job, and I've been working with my family, taking care of somebody's sick, and somebody's got to have a new car, and I've done all this stuff. You say, but I didn't go to the gym in 2 weeks, right? Fine. This is normal. It is not the case that we're all balanced all the time, and that's never going to happen. This is really just a reminder that we want to take care of our bodies too. with physical exercise, medical care for injuries, avoiding long periods of sitting at a laptop like we're doing right now. Massage and physical therapy and other remedies are possible to keep our bodies healthy, right? We only have one body. We want to take care of it. So if you are suffering with some kind of lingering health problem, this is a wake-up call, a chance to remind you that you have permission to take care of your body. In fact, we hope that you will take better care of your body than you have been perhaps until now. A healthy mind is important too. These are some tips that came to me from other people. I will admit it. All of the good ideas I get from my beloved friends and colleagues. And oops, sorry about that. We went too fast. Don't overthink things. Teachers tend to overthink. We tend to get stuck on things. And I invite us to just remember that that's possible. Take time to reflect. I've been preaching that for this last hour and a half and for a long time. Reflecting by writing things down. The next one is underappreciated, but really important. Be positive for others and avoid negativity. It's very important that we stay positive and we try to help each other to stay positive. Judy's masterful at that. She's got this gift to make people feel good. Avoid being negative. It doesn't mean you can never complain, because you should complain if you have a problem. But the notion of positivity is so important. And finally, learn to do or to use something new, a new tech tool or a new language or a new piece of equipment, a new musical genre. Anything new in your life is a good way to keep your mind healthy. And I encourage you to do it. And of course, the last one is the soul. And feeding the soul is something that in the West we struggle with. Be sure that we identify and engage in inspirational activity of however we do it. It doesn't matter how. People have different ways. In Makassar, the students love to dance. They love to sing. One of my favorite stories, and I'll make this fast, but it's worth telling. My students, we opened the class. The class started early in the morning, like 7 o'clock in the morning, because it was so hot. And we started early in the morning when it was a bit cooler. And I would bring the PowerPoint and I would bring the laptop and I would bring the handouts and all the stuff that I had for the class. And the students would help me carry all this stuff. And the first thing we would do after we would get everything set up in this classroom, the first thing we would do would be to sing a song together. So I asked 4 or 5 of the girls who were helping me to set up, I said, what song do you like? Oh, we love Adele, they told me. We love Adele. I said, I love Adele too. So I went to YouTube and I found Adele and we sang Adele together. I made it loud so they didn't sing. They just sort of, I could see that they were moving their mouths. Well, over time, I turned down the volume. Those students sang Adele's songs perfectly, no accent. And I said, what does she mean when she talks about, there's a fire burning in my soul? And they'd say, I don't know. I don't know what it means. They had no idea what the song meant. They only loved to sing Adele and listen to Adele. So what was my lesson? The lyrics to Adele's songs was a lesson for many weeks. I would print them off and we would talk about the lyrics and metaphor in English. I love that story. Thank you for listening. We fed each other's souls, those students and me, with Adele. What do you do for your soul? Balancing your life, body, mind, and soul. Which of these are your best at doing regularly? What do you do best? Not worst. Not what are you missing, but what do you do the very best? Body, mind, or soul? And which one do you want to add? Any questions? Any comments?
Any questions, please? Any comments? What do you do for your body, mind, and soul regularly? May I? Dr.
Yeah, I know
English?
you want to. I can tell by your face.
Yes, cooking and also morning stretching. That's the best thing.
You do it every day?
Yeah, every day.
Very cool. I love cooking. Cooking can be really both mind and spirit, right?
Okay, there's another comments. I'm
good.
doing Zumba every afternoon. That's cool.
Zumba every afternoon, Juliana. So cool. Some of us started doing that during COVID when we couldn't go to the gym. We would stay at home and do. I sing while I take a bath. That's so cute. I believe you. Mandi. I would play with my cats. Yeah, you play with your cats. I'm so glad. Pets, and I do my laundry. Erwin, you're such a good person to do your laundry. Yay. Life balance. Keseimbangan hidup. Is that how we say it in Bahasa Indonesia, Ani?
Keseimbangan hidup.
Hidup.
Yes, keseimbangan hidup.
I looked it up.
Yes, but probably to make it very easy, you can say hidup seimbang.
Hidup
Probably.
seimbang.
Yes, correct. Perfect.
Singing full senyum.
Yes, because there
K-pop.
is a
The
song.
K-pop guys are going in the army. I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
All right, darlings. This is so fun. Thank you for listening. Okay, I'm going to go back to my presentation now. So this is a quotation that I've used in a couple of presentations, but you know what? It's really true. Teachers are rock stars. George Cornpass says teachers are heroes without capes. You know, cape like Superman. Whoosh. You already did this. I repeated it. So here's what we say at the end of every presentation in Indonesia. Saya minta maaf atas kesalahan saya telah membuat. How's that, Ani? Pretty good?
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's good.
So I promised you some examples, and I have 1,000, but I have 2 on this slide. So we have a teacher. Remember, we talked about teacher resiliency and teacher motivation. So the teacher who sits outside an apartment building, this is in Alexandria, Virginia, very close to Washington, D.C. in the White House. She sits outside the apartment building where her students are quarantined without any internet. She hotspots her personal phone so they have an hour of internet. She presents their lessons, answers their questions, and gives them the next day's work from her car in front of the apartment building because the students don't have internet. So she does this like at night, and all the kids, there are a bunch of kids in her class who are poor and they live in the same building, the same apartment building. So they all come together around one phone so they can listen to their teacher for 1 hour. And of course, teachers, hundreds of teachers paying out of their own pockets for student materials, internet access, books, and materials. I'm telling you, teachers are rock stars. And these are some of the work that teachers I know are doing. Borderless classroom models from virtual mobility to real results. How K-12 teachers can develop change makers for people and planet. That's a science class. Teachers at the center of a rapidly changing East Asia panel discussion. English language teaching, learning, and assessment across South Asia, practical implications for South Asian teachers, measuring progress in young learners, integrating ICT into the ESL curriculum, promoting better teaching techniques, understanding learning technologies, building rapport, and social emotional competence, nurturing emotional intelligence. These are just topics of research of teachers as they go through the pandemic. Extraordinary work. Cultural activities on the web. My co-author, Julie Lake, and I have this chapter in our new book, Lifting Each Other Up Through Community Building. This is what we believe is the future. Just like we are today on this Zoom call with 113 people, we have a community. We have a new community. We didn't meet before this. And this is a powerful moment. I know you may not feel it, but I do. This is a powerful moment because we are helping each other. We are holding each other up in difficult times. I'm so grateful to be part of this. More of my sweetie pie Indonesians. So they were talking about ZPD, Zone of Proximal Development, yeah? And they made a poster and they made a presentation on this topic. And in Indonesia, you never assign one student to do it alone. We have 5 students doing it together. And they are my beloved students, and they did a great job. The lady on the left is my beloved mentee from the Climb program. Her name is Judith. She is the head of secondary education for Kenya, the whole country. And she is doing amazing work. She's coming to TESOL 2023 in Portland. And just up there is the poster for this very presentation where there's more to say. There's one here for Africa ELTA, one of the finest organizations that we have these days. Africa ELTA is doing great work. Communities of practice.
Happy 2022. This is TESOL in 60 seconds. I want to express my appreciation to TESOL. In 2021, you made me a better person. I was able to participate in webinars, for example, on soft skills that have really improved my relationships with people, as well as my teaching. I also want to appreciate the mentorship program with Dr. Liz England. It's really helped focus me, manage my time, and working on each program one at a time and achieving it and reporting it every month as we talked. It was beautiful. I'm really grateful for my co-mentee, Rachel. I also want to appreciate the webinars that I attended that were teaching on different aspects of English. And sure, I look forward to a positive year, 2022, even as I participate in the research proposal that I handed in. Thank you, and God bless TESOL.
So that's Judith from Africa. You can hear a different variety of English. Thank you for listening. I see a chat here. Okay, got to run. Oh, Judy, okay. All right. These are more communities that I've been part of since the pandemic. Kuwait and Birmingham and Israel. And this is a photograph of all the webinar presenters on our TESOL Career Path Development 2022 program. You'll see Dr. Willie is there. I'm not sure if you know any of the others. We have one guy who's in Jakarta. And the others are from other parts of the world. Webinars, podcasts, social events, all of these things that we do together. There's our leadership team, wonderful team of wonderful people worldwide. A community. So we don't know what's coming in 2023. And how can we prepare ourselves for what's coming? There's a lot we don't know, and there's a lot we do know. And we can't do anything about what we don't know. Right? We can only move ahead and do our best and try to have a little fun and help each other as much as we can along the way. Resiliency, creativity, and commitment. That's what we need, those three. Resiliency, creativity, and commitment to excellence. Manage ourselves and our work lives. These are my beloved students in our very low resourced classroom. You can see the broken windows. These students, there were 90 students in my class, a very big class for me, but they were so, so, so wonderful. This is our book on career path development that is available at that link. And I've talked about it today. Please don't go out and buy that book. Finally, I wanted to make sure you have a definition of communities of practice, because that's what we're talking about today, community. Yeah. And I wrote the definition for the TESOL Encyclopedia of English Language Teaching. I was very honored to be asked to, I was invited to write this definition. TESOL communities of practice are sets of relations among persons and activities over time in relation with other tangential and overlapping communities of practice. So we're not alone, we're not isolated. We are attached to other communities too. This is from the British Council. The English teacher of the future is still needed. We still need English teachers. We still need human beings to be English teachers, not machines. Most English teachers in the future are going to be like you, not like me, like you. Non-native English speakers will be the English teachers of the future. You will be multitasking and multi-skilled. You will use technology and you'll be dependent on technology as you are now. More voluntarism and initiative in personal professional development. That's my email address. It would be my great pleasure to hear from you. And I think we're ready for question and answer, unless you have something else you want to say.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. England. And now
into the room, everything changed, I mean, everything changes. And some of them were way too shy. They didn't want to talk, but because they got used to it. They knew, I mean, every single week I had another stranger walking in that room, and they got used to it. And I would give them so much praise when they would talk and make a mistake and sing Adele songs and whatever they would do, I would say, oh, that's so wonderful, because it was wonderful. And they were so happy to meet new people. I could see them, the boys especially, they'd walk right up to a guest and say hello. And they became like, the boss kind of the room. And it was so beautiful because they got confident in using English because they got used to talking to strangers. And that's something that you suffer with in Indonesia. And in Makassar and South Sulawesi, you don't even have any tourists. You have tons of tourists in Jogja. So you can drag tourists into your classroom.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you very much, Dr. England. Any questions, please, from the participants today? Her wonderful presentation inspired us a lot.
We've got two. Please
Yes.
kindly drop the questions. Oh, okay.
Yes, please kindly drop your questions in the chat box or raise your hands.
Bu Kiki, I have a question.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for the many things. As you mentioned that at the end of the webinar, we will learn one thing, but I think we learned more than one. We learned a lot of things. I have a questions regarding the prescribed stuff, centralized stuffs, like say, for example, when we have a teaching approach, for example, we are handling some teacher education programs like what one of the participants has mentioned here, PPG, for example, they have to teach using this approach. For example, you have to teach English. Well, actually, we have other way of teaching. We have maybe more ideas, but then the government or the central policy, the central policy suggests us to use inquiry approach, for example, or project-based learning or other kind of stuff. Well, sometimes we think probably other method may also works, but how do we balance or how do we manage that kind of situations? Thank you.
Yes, I think this is, and by the way, again, you're not alone, where the supervisor or the ministry has idea that isn't bad. It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea to use various but what you're describing is the common problem of the classroom teacher has a perspective, a point of view, and the ministry has a point of view. And the task is to make both of them work. But the teacher is the one who does it. And I'll tell you, I know from many years of teaching in many countries that teachers do exactly what they want to do. They don't do what the minister says. They do what they want to do because they're there in the moment, right? At 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, the minister is not in the room, right? The teacher is. But at the end of the day, everyone wants the same thing. The minister, the ministry official, the SMA, everybody wants the students to learn English well. And under normal circumstances, and there are many exceptions, there are problems, there are toxic working environments, but normally speaking, 90%, the officials and the teacher can come to an agreement that the minister trusts the teacher to do her job or his job. And so you end up with, it's not exactly right, but this teacher is using inquiry, she's using audiolingual, she's using repetition, she's using all these different tools, and the kids are getting a good score. I mean, if the kids are getting a good score, that's really what they want to make sure. But you will have exceptions to that. And that's usually when they call in people like me, is with the problems, you know, when there's a disagreement. But most of the time, in Indonesia especially, it works out because most everybody agrees if the kids are learning, we aren't going to bother anybody. So worldwide, the problems are more than in Indonesia. They leave the pendidikan to you. The education is for the teacher, not for the minister.
Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you very much, Dr. England. Is
You're
there
making
any direct? Yeah,
I'm missing you. I'm missing Indonesia.
you should come. You must come, actually.
Tempat
Especially
kerja.
staying here in Jakarta for a long
I would
time.
love it. I would love to come in. I was there only once, but we had a beautiful experience and we did are you familiar with Access program?
Access program? Bu Ani, whether do we have kind of access program, Bu Ani?
You have many, yeah. In the high school, the kids go to school after school. Their teacher recommends the kids and they go after school and they have big computer and they draw on the walls and they
Is that
do
an
music.
extracurricular?
Ah,
Extracurricular program?
yeah.
we
But
call it
only for the teacher selects the students to go to this program. So it's not the US Embassy, it's the teachers. They select the student to go to this program.
Okay, so the teachers
not sure
probably
yet about the
preparing the students to join some competition, maybe.
No, the teachers don't do anything. They just, because it's after school. The kids, high school boys and girls, they go out of school at, I don't know, 3 o'clock or whatever time they finish school, and they go to this other place. And in that place, it's small, like a house kind of, but it has very high speed internet and iPad, and they can make artistic, and they do music. They have a lot of musical equipment and instruments, and they make a performance sometimes for parents and teachers. It's usually a kid who, like our colleague was saying, she has the naughty children. It's for naughty children who are very intelligent, but they're naughty. They don't, they have problems. The father is gone, or they have sickness or something wrong. So the teacher selects them to go to this after school program that's very, very good. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's a little bit like a detention center, probably, but in different form of detention center.
Yeah, it's not like police. It's US Embassy.
Oh, very nice.
It's called Access program. Access. ACESS. Yeah. And they're all over Indonesia.
Okay.
Many.
Yes. We would like to probably look up further about that one, because I think
I sent Ani some information about it and she can tell you.
Oh yeah, sure. That's great. Okay, so is there any questions in the chat box? Let me check first. Because
I don't see the chat box anymore.
Yes, yeah, because they already commented about what they always do in the morning before going to school, or probably before going to the workplace.
Yeah.
Sitting in front of computer, singing full senyum. Wow, lot of things here. Okay, so Dr. Liz, any, like simple sentences or probably messages for us? Okay, different stage of teacher. I mean, maybe some of them, they are now in the stage of as a pre-service teachers, and some of them like me, and some of them maybe higher than me. Is there any, like full or probably complete messages for us, especially during the challenging times like this?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. I would say keep learning things. Keep learning things. Learn a new language. Learn a new app, to use a new app. Learn how to use Kahoot, or learn how to use some other tool that Jamboard is great. Google Docs are great. Google Forms are great. Learn something new. Just don't stop learning. And I think that's really my message through this very tricky time, is that keep going and keep a notebook, keep writing some things down, and then learn something. Just say, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn some things I'm doing now is I have this thing called Doodly. It's a very cute thing. And some of my colleagues in CPD in our group, they know how to do it. So they're trying to teach me how to do it. And I teach, I'm working with some refugees. So I'm teaching them things, and I learn from them when I teach them. So just keep learning new things.
Thank you very much, Dr. England. Keep learning new things. That's the main point for all of us, especially to face or to deal with these challenging times.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Liz. Give a big round of applause to Dr. Liz.
Oh,
okay, the virtual applause, of course. Thank you very much, Dr. Liz.
Here's a virtual heart.
Oh, yes, virtual heart. So for now, I'd like to invite all of the participants to open up your camera, and we would like to have a photograph together. Okay, yes, we're going. Okay, probably Mbak Aisyah and also Mas Kiki. Would you please help us? Okay, and is there any special signs that you would like to have, like a heart or probably like this?
Yeah, will you choose?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Okay, well, everybody. Okay, everybody, please give a heart shape that we are connected, though we are now in different countries. Okay. I would like to count up to 3. Okay, there are like 2 or 3 in windows over here. So the first one would be 1, 2, 3. The second slide, 1, 2, 3. And the third slide, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. We will send the pictures to you, Dr. England, including...
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for all the participants, and also especially for Dr. England for today's presentation. Hope you will visit us in Yogyakarta soon enough.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Somebody just shouted out, thank you. Okay. So Dr. England has addressed hot issues regarding to the teacher experiences, the professional excellence in teaching, research, and surveys, including how do teachers or us reflect ourselves in these challenging times as professional teacher, and including the tight connection between a teacher's leadership, motivation, resilience, and also current technology. Even me, I cannot take my eyes off of the screen, doctor. And the main point here is about mental health for every teachers around the world, and also about how to do the work-life balance. And I guess I also read in your CV that you love to do fitness, meditation, including volunteer social justice activists. And that's the step that we have to follow further. Thank you very much. And I apologize that during accompanying Dr. England's session, I did a lot of mistakes and also errors. And thank you very much once again, Dr. England. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Nice to see you all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. England, and also Miss Kiki for the nice presentation and also so interesting. Before we close the agenda, here with us the Honorable Mr. Muhammad Sayuti, PhD. He is the Dean of Education Faculty in Universitas Ahmad, Dahlan. So I welcome Mr. Sayuti to give a warm speech for us before we close the agenda for today. Mr. Sayuti, are you still here?
Yeah, Aisha, I'm not sure that Mr. Sayuti is now still in a meeting. I'm not sure for this, so I will represent him to say something to Dr. England. Dr. England, thank you very much for joining, for being our guest lecturer. I think we just met in online. We never met in person, but we just feel like we learn a lot, and we can feel, like you said, that we can feel the spirit, we can feel the motivations and inspiration from you. Yeah, like a teacher should have a motivation. I think to speak in front of the Zoom with this Zoom webinar is not easy, especially if it's more than 2 hours. I know you do work very hard to prepare this. And thank you also very much for all the participants. Some of our colleagues from Malaysia and also from Philippines and other parts of the world, they are joining. I know some participants from Universitas Malaysia Pahang and UITM, and also from CAPSU, and also from other universities. And thank you very much for all participating in this webinar. Not only lecturers, but also teachers, high school teachers graduating from our teacher training programs, and also from other countries' teachers. Thank you very much for joining this. Hopefully our webinar will be fruitful for you all, and the most important is that we can have connections, we can have a relationship after this. This webinar is just a starting point for us to make more collaborations, to make more connections. For you who want to write articles, who want to share your ideas, want to report your research or your observations, your teaching observations, your professional observation, you can just send articles to us. We have some journals to accommodate your papers. And well, if possible, maybe one day we will invite Dr. Elizabeth England as one of the reviewer for our professional writings, our reflections, or maybe we can also have a tea time together. I quote the things interesting, have a edu therapy and a tea time. Yeah, sometimes we have to make it through. Maybe someday in Jogja or in other place we have a tea time together. Real tea time, not a virtual tea time.
Yeah, real.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. I think that's all from me. For all the committee, thank you also for preparing all the things, the live streaming, also running well, the YouTube. I will send the link YouTube. Maybe the committee can send the link YouTube to the chat box so everyone can record, can save, so they can still replay this webinar to learn more and always refresh. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
can you symbolically give the certificate to Dr. England first? Thank you.
Okay. Yes, as the committee has already provide this certificate. Thank you, and hopefully this certificate can be one of the starting point for us to go further for other collaborations.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. England, Mrs. Kiki, Mrs. Annie for the warm speech also. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our event today. I am Aisahrul Surya representing all of the committees. I would like to say thank you so much for your participation, and let's close our event today by reciting Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you in the next webinar series. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. England. Thank you very much.
Miss. And Dr. England also. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good sleep, ma'am.
I will. Thank you so much.
It's already midnight there. Yeah. Our faculty, yeah, just this morning he said about information about the AMINEF opening the undergraduate exchange. Yeah, the program exchange until December. I think some of our students interested to apply for that. Hopefully, some of them can pass the selections.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear of the